We might have a little bit of cylinder head issue. We might have a little bit of compression leaking past the valves.
Dripping.
This sounds ridiculous! What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Proven Power Cycles. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Eric. And I am the tuner here at the shop. We have an 08 Kawasaki ZX-14 in, and this thing's in pretty good shape. And now look at this, it is 100% stock. That's pretty cool. We don't really get a lot of these. Well, okay, let me rephrase this. I said 100% stock. He does have suspension work. I'm sorry, he does have suspension work, but as far as any performance mods go for engine horsepower, it's stock. We have a completely stock exhaust system, stock chain and sprocket kit, stock air filter, stock stacks, you know, everything on this thing is pretty much stock, and we're running on 93 pump gas, so nothing crazy. So far, the owner, as noted or as stated, he already got suspension on it, so he got a rear shock and he got the front forks, ohlins, so really nice upgrade just to start off. The owner recently bought the bike. He said that him and his girl, they didn't have something kind of quick enough that had enough torque and everything for them to be comfortable on. So long story short, they found this beauty and they went and purchased it. It's kind of got this real deep blue, this like almost like blue pearl in it. It's really pretty. It's got like a black base. I haven't seen this color, admittedly, not yet. Really pretty color. So we are going to do some maintenance items to this bike, so I want to point that out to you guys. Clearly we noticed this rear tire, it's got a very old date stamp on it. What was it again, Lewis? Back in 2013. Yeah. So guys, here's a little tidbit for you guys. On your tires, you're gonna have a code kind of stamped like this. Yeah, this is a DOT date. Thank you, Lewis. And what it is the first two digits are the week that it was made. So out of 52 weeks, so this is 30 weeks out of 52. So, you know, roughly a little bit over the midway point in the year. And then the second two digits is the year that it was made. So this was made about, you know, July or so, something like that, in the 2013. So this tire, oh my God. This tire's like 11 years old almost. This thing's like 10 and a half years old. And we already noticed some issues with the tire itself. We have some abnormal wear and tear on it. It's not, I don't think this thing's gonna run right at all on the dyno, to be honest with you. But it's okay. We're gonna strap it down. We're gonna keep an eye on it. Clearly, but we're also gonna get that swapped out. We're gonna talk to the owner about that. That's something that we're gonna point out to him. We're gonna let him know, you know, hey, this is pretty dangerous to run like this, especially if you're gonna have somebody else on the back of this bike. It's very important that you make sure that the bike is mechanically sound, meaning good tires, good chain and sprocket, etc., etc., especially if you're gonna be carrying passengers. So this front one you see here, let's rotate this camera. It was made in the 50th week of 2013, so the end of 2013. And if you see already, you see we already have some ridges here on the tire. This is dry rot. You start getting those ripples on the side of the tire whenever, again, tire gets old, it's getting dry rotted, it's seeing a lot of the elements, a lot of the weather changes, heat, cold, rain, humidity, etc., etc. You know, just these constant patterns of up and down, up and down. He also requested that we do a valve adjustment. It does have a good amount of miles on it. We're gonna check right now. Woo! 49,000 miles. That's cool. We got another one over there, a white one. Where's the white one at? There it is. We have a white one over there that actually has 68,000 miles on it, and that one's gonna hit the dyno here soon, believe it or not. So for those of you who think, you know, oh, my bike has 20,000 miles, it's old, I need to trade it in, it's gonna die, and all this other jazz. Yes, trust me, these bikes can get a lot more miles, and especially as long as you guys are taking care of them and doing all the maintenance items on it, I promise you the bikes will last you a good amount of time. Today, all we're gonna do are the baselines. We wanted to show you what one of these things stock completely puts out on the dyno, and then what it's gonna be like once we install the full exhaust. He has a Brox CT, so it's a full titanium. He bought it used, but it looks good. It looks like it's in really good condition, so we're gonna be installing that. We're gonna be doing a valve adjustment on this thing and you know, a few other little items here and there, but nothing else pertaining to the performance side of things. We're gonna set the bike up, we're gonna get it ready to be dynoed, and we're gonna do some baselines real quick. All right, guys, so the best run that we were able to get out of it so far was 165 wheel with 101 foot-pounds of torque. However, our air fuel, our wideband gauge kind of acted a little screwy on that run and it didn't get us a reading. So it's probably the sensor. We probably got to replace the sensor, but the run before that, we had 163.62, which was this blue line, and it got us our air fuel. So at least to give you a general idea, it is running a little rich at wide open throttle throughout the whole pool. Even at top end, it goes really rich. And in one run, we actually had it to where it was well, I said pretty, but it was very lean down low. And then it kind of slowly started coming back in, and then it kind of followed this line here. So, and also we are trying to fight, you know, we have two systems here. We have two mufflers, I should say, that we're splitting the difference. So the air fuel, I could see it being a little harder to target, especially because of the way the design is on the muffler. You know, they have chambers in there where they kind of restrict the airflow. So it is kind of difficult to get the best reading. But again, I wanted to give you an idea as to what was going on in there. It's running very rich. 165 is our baseline with 101 foot-pounds of torque. Let's see if we can beat these numbers. Obviously, it ain't gonna be that hard to, to beat, because all we gotta do is really slap this exhaust on and it's gonna pick up power. So what we're gonna do the valve adjustment, we're gonna install the exhaust, we're gonna do all of this next. After we finish all of that, we're gonna throw it back on the dyno, re-baseline it, and blah, 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 blah. We're gonna go through, we're gonna tune it, and then we're gonna get you guys the final numbers at the end as well. So, dude, I'm hoping for mid 180s. That would be killer. If we do mid 180s, I would be happy. Lewis, what do you think? What do you think it's gonna do? I don't know. I know you don't see a lot of these, but
the shit that we're doing to it.
Yeah. So as far as like horsepower numbers go,
I mean, if it's at 165 now, I mean, I do wonder if it's hurt a little bit because of the if it's had, or when its last valve adjustment was, seeing how it's got 40,000 miles on it.
And that's a really good point, guys. We don't know, and the current owner, I believe, if I'm getting this correctly, he does not know when the last valve adjustment, if there has been one, he doesn't know when it's been done. So with that being said, we might have a little bit of cylinder head issue. We might have a little bit of compression leaking past the valves because the valves weren't adjusted. We don't know until we get in there. We don't know.
I'm gonna say 182.
And this bike is not tuned. It's also running really fat up top.
That's what I said. I'll say 182.
All right, so we got. Yeah, I think that's a good number. I'm fairly confident in that too. I think we can get into the 180s. I think we can get, you know, low to at least mid 180s. I'm feeling.
See it.
Time to get to work. Just kidding. We love it. We got it off the dyno and we have started on the, I guess, the transformation, if you will. But here's the monster cans. He's, like I said, he has that ohlins rear shock. So, but here are the cans. We're gonna take these bad boys off here. We've got some corrosion built up all over the water pump housing too.
I was just looking at that. The paint peeling off.
Yeah, the paint's peeling off too. All right. Well, you know, guys, this is exactly why we kind of go through the bike while we're undoing everything, just so you can kind of see what we're seeing. Clearly, we have a massive, massive leak on the bike. It's going all the way down to the oil pan. So we have a little oil leak. Well, not little, but we have a good oil leak that's going all the way down, basically all the way down to the oil pan.
You see the color.
Yeah, look at that, the color differences. So this has definitely been leaking for quite a while. And it's definitely coming from the valve cover gasket. So we traced it. I mean, look at that. Look at the bottom of the exhaust too. Woo. Well, it's a good thing we're taking off this. Look at that. It's dripping. It's freaking dripping. Another thing we caught too, he's got no fluid in his clutch reservoir. If you look here, it's basically damn near empty. So when you're turning this bike right, let's say you're leaning it right and you're turning it right, you're gonna have he's gonna have an air pocket in there, and you can see that this is already kind of rusting over. So whenever you start seeing that rust, that's another indication that you're losing brake fluid somewhere. We have everything stripped down. We got it all torn apart. Lewis has already checked the valves, and we have quite a few out of spec. He has a sheet.
The way kind of Lewis writes this out here, it's basically every number here is a thousandth. So this is 7 thousandths, 8 thousandths, 7 thou, 8 thou, 9, 9, 8, 8. So what we want to be on the exhaust side is between basically 9 thousandths and about 10, 10 and a half, which, you know, and ideally you want to be a little bit on the tighter side from my understanding. So we are basically a little too tight. Here we're perfectly in spec. That's what we want to be at. And then here again, we're a little too tight. Intake side looks pretty damn good. Intake, you want to be around 6 thou to 8 thou. We have our first valve here in line. We are super tight. We are way tighter than the minimal clearance here. So that one we're gonna have to loosen up quite a bit. And everything else looks pretty good. Once we start taking these shims out of here and we start pulling these buckets out, so you have, here, we'll do a little close up here. Right there, that silver thing that you see right there, that's the bucket. So underneath this bucket, that's underneath the cam lobe, that's where we're gonna find our shim. And once we see the shim, we'll see what the shim is stamped with. So here is a bucket. This is what they look like. And then the shim, well, the bucket sits over the shim. But the shim sits on top of the valve spring, and then this slides over the valve and the valve spring, and then the shim is underneath this. So once you pull this bucket out, then you can see your shim size. They're in millimeters. So once you read out your shim size, then you can do the math and figure out what you need to do. Once you get your measurements, and again, most of the time they're gonna be tight, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna drop your shim size. You want a smaller shim, and what that's gonna do is give you a bigger clearance, so a bigger number. It's a little bit of an inverse relationship. Here is your cam chain tensioner. Normally there's an automatic one. This is what it looks like. These are spring loaded. They're also driven off of oil pressure. This is what puts tension on the cam chain, on the guide. We revert to a manual one. It's more or less like set it and forget it. We got the valve adjustment all completed, and so the customer supplied us with a used Brock CT exhaust. It's still in pretty dang good condition. Here, let's go over it. Now, we do need to wipe it down. We do need to kind of clean it up. But again, we just got this all installed. We just finished up the valve adjustment. There are still a couple little things we need to do, but all in all, this thing's in pretty good condition. He scored a pretty good find on this one. So I'm really curious to see how this thing turns out with the tune. And something that the customer kind of, I don't want to say surprised us with, but something that he kind of threw into the mix that we were, again, kind of surprised, that we were pleasantly surprised, I should say. And that is, he ended up ordering a set of board throttle bodies. So there's a company out there that supplies board throttle bodies along with their velocity stacks. And he just recently purchased the throttle bodies, and he said that the stacks, I believe he said he purchased the stacks as well, and both of them are going to be here soon. We do have the throttle body assembly. So this is done by Superbike Mike, if you guys can see that. These do look good. Man, yeah, the board does look good on this. Now, I'm surprised they left this upper shaft in here. I am surprised by that, considering that they did go through the whole trouble of boring these throttle bodies out. Oh, they even did the backside here too. Nice. So another thing that the customer opted to do is he wanted to throw in these block off plates. So these are called like smog block off or pair block off, or if you have a Yamaha, it's like an AIS delete. These are the block offs right here, and what it does is it just takes off that pair valve system, or again, if you're on a Yamaha, the AIS system. Basically, we cut off the fresh oxygen supply, the fresh air supply that goes into this. It does kind of mess with the tune a little bit, but usually we can tune through those things if you don't have it. Another little update here on the ZX-14. We have finally received the velocity stacks from the same company that ported the throttle bodies. Guy's name is Superbike Mike. He does ported throttle bodies as well as the velocity stacks. So we just got the stacks in about, I don't know, 2 hours ago. So here they are, we finally got them, and these are supposed to match right in with the throttle bodies that they bored out. Lewis got the stacks all installed, and they look great. Honestly, they look good. Fitment's pretty good. We're gonna see if we can get some light in here, but all in all, they look killer. They're very flush with the airbox, so this really should bump up that top end quite a bit. They're sitting very, very flush. What we're gonna do, we're gonna blow this all out with hair. Let's see what old girl can put down. It's gonna see the dyno next, and yeah, man, I'm really curious. We got the bike on the dyno. It's time. It's time. It's time. I'm so excited. I'm so pumped up. I'm so curious. So we got the bike on the dyno. We need to warm it up, and then we're gonna do some baseline pulls. I'm expecting the baseline pulls to be pretty far off. Now, if you haven't already, put your guess in below. Tell me what you think it's gonna baseline at with the new setup, and then tell me what you think final numbers are gonna be. So pause the video real quick, go down, comment, like, subscribe. We got them on a Q5, a 190/55. This is one of our favorite tires right now. Very, very sticky. We recommend it to a lot of roll race guys. Track guys also do pretty good with them that we've heard so far. Good compound tire. Again, we like the Q5, and we did the matching front too. So we have a Q5 front and a Q5 rear. So here's the Brock CT. Now, this was a used pipe, but honestly, this pipe was in really good condition. He did a good job finding this pipe. It's really good condition. So whoever had it before him, they took pretty good care of this thing all in all. So I'm excited. Let me go ahead and run this thing. All right. Here are the numbers. So the red line is the completely stock baseline that we took. All right, completely stock, stock exhaust, the stock air filter, etc., etc. The new baseline is going to be in blue. Now we got an air fuel reading on this one, obviously, because we need to start tuning it. This is with the velocity stacks, the Brock CT, and the board throttle bodies. Now, just at face value, we picked up 7 wheel horsepower with, well, technically we lost peak torque, but if we look at the top of the power band, you actually gain a ton of power here where that stock system fell off. This new setup is basically holding the power all the way to the red line. So it's a good new baseline, and we have a very, very, very rich AFR reading. I mean, we're in the 12s, 11s, 12, 12.4, 12.0, you know, 11.9, and that carries on basically throughout the entire power band. We're running extremely rich, which is interesting because I could have sworn we would have been running extremely lean, but again, this is why we run them on the dyno, to get these readings out so that way we know how to tune them. So, and if you look all in the mid-range, they kind of dance in and out of each other, and in low end, we actually lost power, which I kind of expected this with the bored out throttle body assembly, and you know, with the deleted secondary throttle plates, we've increased the crap out of the airflow. A lot of the times what you do with a bigger bore, especially if it's not bell mouth or anything like that, a lot of times I'll see power loss down at low end, and then we kind of pick it all back up again at the top end. So you got to give a little to get a little in this world. So anyway, what we're gonna do now, we're gonna start dialing in this map. We're gonna start getting this thing figured out here and tuned in so we can see what the final numbers are. So we got the ZX-14 all wrapped up. We just got done doing all the dyno tuning on it. The customer came and picked the bike up just recently, yesterday, and we are going to go over the final numbers now. So I wanted to show you guys this and kind of explain it a little bit and then go from there. So here we go. So just a quick recap: baseline 165 with 101 torque. The new baseline, we did 175 with 100 foot-pounds of torque, but we lost low end, and realistically it's going to be because we don't have those secondary throttle plates. We also have bored out throttle bodies, so this is kind of expected to lose a little bit of power. Now this is quite a bit of power. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna hide it. So to lose 11 wheel 10 to 11 wheel horsepower, that's pretty massive down low. That's going to be a very noticeable feeling going up into your power band. But all of the modifications that the customer did is primarily geared towards top end, okay? Bored out throttle bodies, deleting the secondary throttle plates, getting the Brock CT, things like that. That is definitely geared more towards to gain the top end power, okay? Keep that in mind. So we lost 10 or so down low. We have a little gain here. We have some loss here. And then we have nothing but gains from about 80 to 100 RPM and on. We have nothing but gains. So if we want to target something top end, now this is baseline versus baseline, we're already picking up about, what is that, about 16, about 16 wheel horsepower. So very good gains out of the gate, you know, again, at that top end power band. So in here, we're gonna go ahead and lay out the final tune here. It's gonna be in red. We'll highlight it so you guys can see it real quick. All right, so here's the final. Not much really changed down low on that low end stab. We picked up just a little bit of horsepower on the low end stab, and then coming up through the mid range, we picked up a decent amount of power right here around the 65 to 7400 mark. Now we don't really have too much of a loss here at that mid range. It's gonna feel very similar. 145, 148, so, well, about 2.5 horsepower loss here. So nothing major that you're really losing here at that 7,700 or so, 7,600. And then now from 8,000 RPM and on, we have nothing but gains. And if you notice here, we'll take another top end measurement here around 10.7. We're actually now a solid 24 wheel horsepower gain, and some of these are actually closer to 26 wheel horsepower gains. The higher up in the RPM we go, the bigger the gain. So final numbers, we ended with 181 wheel with 103 foot-pounds of torque. I think at the beginning of the video, because obviously it's been some time now waiting on shipping, waiting on parts, doing the dynoing and all that jazz. I want to say I told you guys I was hoping for about 185. Dude, I'm hoping for mid 180s. That would be killer. We're right in that range that I was kind of hoping for. Admittedly, I was really hoping that we were gonna sustain a less loss, so we wouldn't have lost as much horsepower down low, and then we would have picked it up from about 65 to 7K and on. I was hoping to have nothing but gains. But again, this is why we do this. This is exactly why we test products. This is exactly why we go through this, so that we can see, all right, you know, this is what it did. You know, we can actually compare apples to apples and see what they did. So still very good gains all in all. And the bike did have a lot of miles on it. So that's another factor to kind of think about, is wearing on the valves, wearing on piston rings. You know, we didn't compression test it. We didn't do like a full leak down test. We didn't do any of that. You know, primarily we wanted to see what the dyno numbers were going to show us. But all in all, still very good power, still very healthy, you know, and the bike's riding out, and I'm sure he's gonna love it. You know, his big thing is he wants to take this bike to the track. He wants to go road course racing with it, which is, it's a little out of the ordinary, but he does have the full ohlins suspension, and he does have supporting mods. He's got the Q5 tires now. You know, granted, those aren't exactly like the best track tires, but they're still very, very good street tires, and they're also still a pretty damn decent track tire. You can at least get a session, a couple of sessions out of it, and still have some fun, you know, for an average rider. You know, he's not like a pro rider, so, you know, I'm sure he's gonna have a ton of fun on it. So the rest of this though, very happy. I'm very satisfied. I think the bike did great. Owner seemed pretty happy about it. He was just very excited to go on a ride. Now, obviously, he didn't want to see any power loss like we had down there at the lower RPM. Nobody wants to see power loss no matter what. But whenever you go to a bored out throttle body assembly, whenever you go to these bigger air induction style systems, sometimes that happens. The way to counteract that is to get higher compression pistons, bigger bore, things like that, bigger stroke. To kind of, you know, you need a little bit more displacement to kind of up that airflow down low. That CFM, basically, how much the air is going to flow. How much the motor is going to flow is how you kind of regain that low end stuff. So we're also going to talk to him about doing a cam swap. You know, he's still debating on it. You know, we're going to talk about doing like kind of like a Gen 2, Gen 1 little hybrid build. So we're discussing it, but you know, all in all, I think he's going to be pretty happy with this compared to what the bike was feeling like. So I'm
99% sure he's gonna be pretty happy when he goes to take a rip on this thing. So we appreciate you. Thank you for viewing. You know, we really appreciate the support. It's been awesome lately. The numbers have been growing really well. We're really happy. Thank you so much. Thanks for the feedback. Thank you for leaving comments in the comments section. We love the interaction. We want you guys to interact more. Please do so. Please leave us a comment, a like, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in supporting us and showing you more stuff like this in the future. So if you could, please support us so we can help show you guys more things in the future. So thank you again. Stay safe. We'll see you on another episode.